You can see we have a table, a little storage, a little wine cooler. So we're going to replace all this with a permanent facility in this location. So the materials for this project are one sheet of plywood, oak plywood, one 2x4, and one piece of trim, which we'll use to trim out the top around the top of the desk. Two by 4 and 2, got our pieces. Now let's cut them in half. I'm going to cut my side rails to 2 feet, even though I'm going to cut them a little bit shorter so they don't show from the front for assembly. I need them so I can do a dry fit to fit my long back piece in first. So let's go with that. I put my 2 side rails together. I'm going to measure this distance here. .67 3/4, and then we have to trim it. We'll do that. Right up against one end, and you can see we just have a smidgen to chop off. Okay. Now for the refit. Okay, see that goes there. Perfect. Right on target. Okay, now we can proceed. So the side pieces to my tabletop, these are the braces, and I decided what I would do is 24 is the length of my top. But I'm going to cut these back to 22 and then have a bevel going back another inch. So I drew this about 1.5 inches, but I decided this is close enough to a 45 degree. So I'm going to just put that on my sled and cut that at 45 degree. That way these will be back and hidden a little bit from view, so you won't see these butted up against the edge of the tabletop. Then on the corner back here, because this piece will go into the corner of the sheetrock, what I'm going to do is drill a hole at about a 45 degree angle so I can make sure I hit the stud back here in the corner. So let's give this a whirl. Going across this way, so I built me an apparatus to be able to do that. So I just have my speed square 45 degree angle, and I have it clamped here, and I have a support clamp here so this doesn't slide away. So let's give it a whirl and drill it. I'm going to use these 3.5 inch screws. These are deck screws, and they're kind of small, so I'm going to drill just a modest size hole here. Alright, that's our 2 holes. Let's give this a whirl. Board on the wall on the flat top here. I've got my level. I have a hole begun here. So we're going to attempt to screw this in. Okay, let's see what we got here. good. Now, right into a stud. So now we're going to put the corner screw in. We'll get this started a little bit. We'll come back and level it up. Perfect on the level. For this corner, I've marked, this line is the bottom, that's my clearance line, so I have to have this above that. So we're going to put that right up against the butt. Now our little piece we have come in here, and I've actually made a pocket hole to attach it from here down into that one, because we don't have, and we'll do a corner drill as well on that one. And the one pocket hole screw. There we go, nice and tight. Okay, here's the setup. I have my 6 foot 2 inch, a 26-inch board that I need to cut down, finish cut. So I did a rough cut first, so I'm going to cut it to 2 feet, 24 inches. Whatever the exact measurement for the walls are. So what I have is I have a jig for my saw. You can see right here, jig for a Craftsman saw. And I'm going to cut along this line right here. So this is the underside, so I have actually screwed this in place because this jig will not expand the whole length of that. And so I'll saw and then stop and then reposition it and finish it. Now let's check for rip out. Perfect. Perfect. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, and now we have this marked at 71 inches, which is where our length measured, and if you recall what we have here, this is the cut. We want to make it 71, but we want to cut it on the other side since this is the top we're going to use. So we're going to flip it over and tape the other side. So we have our line drawn, so now we can move our jig over here, and seeing how our piece is shorter than the length of our jig, we can clamp this one rather than have to worry about screwing it.
Whoa! Oh my gosh. Please work. That's
Dry
right.
fit number one.
Yeah, it's perfect!
So for my frame, I decided I needed a front brace. That plywood has a little bit of flex in it. So I put it at 19.5 inches. Decided I'd drill a couple of pocket holes, one on each side here. On this side, same thing, one there and one back over there. So this piece of plywood on edge is more rigid than if you'd laid it flat. So let's put this in. Okay, here's a look at the base. We put our wine cabinet underneath here because that was the item that it was built for the custom height. We had a little bevel right here for this hinge to fit under just in case we have to move it about. So we used the edging of the plywood on end so it's more rigid, and we had a couple of screws in here, and this one we have a couple of pocket screws to hold it at each of the sides. So with that as our look at the base, let's look at what we're doing now, and that's putting the edge banding on our plywood top. So we have a little tinfoil here to keep any glue from getting on the iron. We have it taped for position, and we're ready to start that. Here we are ironing on our edge banding. So now I'm going to take my razor blade and cut off the edge of the very thing. I've already done the bottom, so the top's pretty close. Then I'll come do a little sanding, and we'll probably be done. To get a nice finished look on your top, one thing we want to do is plan to have a hole for electrical cords for lamps or other appliances or whatever we may sit on top of the desk. So whether we cut one here or over here, we're going to go inside and measure, and we'll come back and cut that next. Now we're going to drill electrical hole outlets. And now for a paint job. We got the paint ready, and Picasso's ready to start.
Boy, is it soaking in. You know what? I don't know what this color is.
So one last thing before we put the countertop on. Since Picasso's finished painting it, now we need to add in something that is going to be special, and this is a USB outlet for 4 USB connections at one time. We have the wood grain paneling up on the wall. We have a little USB plug down here. We have electrical outlet plug. So this wraps up our part on building a floating desk. So be sure and give us a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and come back and see us real soon.